together in the time of natural disaster. And then what's also kind of amazing is scammers, fraudsters, or tricksters who try to take advantage of situations like that, right? They might want to take advantage of me as an individual, or maybe an organization like FEMA, like these things. Schemers are going to scheme, scammers are going to scam. Let's see, make sure I do this right. I want to start this presentation off a little differently. I really have a lot to say, so I apologize if I'm going to speak pretty fast through some things. I might touch on a few things, but I will be here through the whole night. I don't fly out till tomorrow at 7. I'm happy to be in the parking lot with you at 2 a.m. if you really want to have a deep conversation. I have nothing else to do. My family's at home. But I'm going to kind of let you, give you awareness of what Raymond James does, and then kind of get into some cyber topics. So number one, we have a cyber promise. This is on our website. I could give the team a link for the brochure, things like that. Should anything happen to your accounts through no fault of your own through a cyber attack, we make it whole, and we really do believe in that, right? We believe it so much that we do publish it on our public-facing website, and we truly stand by it. Now, the 146 quarters that you see at the top, we're really proud of that. Does everyone remember what happened in October 1987? Any hands? The stock market took a pretty bad hit, right? It was Black Monday. A lot of other firms were closing the doors, ripping their telephones out the wall. Raymond James stayed open because of our service to clients and what they wanted to, even if that meant that the firm was going to take a loss. That just kind of paints a picture on what we do here is our service first. These are our 4 pillars. I will briefly touch on these because I really want to get to the fun stuff about, just topics and things like that. We have 4 pillars: protect, detect, develop, and partner. We're always looking for the best protective measures. Oftentimes we have multiple security solutions that may do the same thing. Maybe some do it in different ways. And then in a detection, we're always thinking, well, we're not doing a good job, right? We could be doing something better. Something could be failing. What's failing? How can we find it? We're always on the proactive hunt for that. And then develop and partnership, I'll kind of lump those all together. We really develop partnerships and relationships, not only within our own organization, our firm, and we are a global firm, but also with the Department of Homeland Security, so the Secret Service, FBI, and other financial organizations. We want to share our intelligence with other, because really our goal is to stop cyber criminals or fraudsters from targeting our most beloved asset, which is you, our clients, and also the firm's proprietary data that really sets it apart as the premier alternative to Wall Street. And my clicker's not working. This is my fault. Hold on. I did get hacked. Yeah, I thought I saw someone doing something from there. I thought they were just itching their nose. So this is kind of our defense in depth. If you look at this, think of it like an onion, right? So if your data or our data is in the very middle of this, we have added layers of protection on the outside. So I don't want to stick too much into this, but there is no silver bullet for us. We didn't buy that one solution off the shelf at Micro Center, which I get to say because we don't have one in Florida. And think we're doing a great job, right? So a lot of it really starts off on the outside layer: intelligence, security awareness. What we're doing now, we're educating you. And think about this as maybe your security onion or your defense in depth. So if your most prized data, whether it be documents, family photos, things like that, things that make you you, that's in the middle. Now, what's on the outside, or how are those outer layers done, right? So, and a great example, and I'm so sorry because I am trying to rush through all this to get to the fun stuff, is this is one of our capabilities. So within a given quarter, we had 181 million emails come through, and whether it be static or dynamic analysis. So maybe something like, hey, we're going to just block IPs from Russia or from China, and no offense to anyone who's from Russia or China. These are really like in those areas that are just malicious and cyber activity. It could be something dynamic analysis. So maybe I get a link in my email through something. This system will actually check it out ahead of time. It will maybe detonate the link, or it'll click on it for me. And if it leads to something malicious, it'll quarantine it. If it doesn't, it'll allow it to get to my mailbox. And even though it seems like an absurd amount of emails, right? Do you all get too many emails, like a lot of spam and junk emails all the time, right? Just, 38 million emails still come to our inboxes after all this process. So really huge process, and what our solution does to protect us. And this is protecting the advisors, the associates, everyone, people like me. And it's just amazing. But in those 38 million emails, there could still be something caught, right? There could be something still so fresh and so new that our security solutions didn't know about it. And so part of my job as security awareness specialist is I educate the firm on different cyber topics. I fish the firm at times. And I don't know if I told anyone at Carter Financial Management that, I might have some black and blue eyes later because sometimes people don't like to be fished. But it really is an amazing aspect of what we do. Some of the protective measures I want to speak about is, multi-factor authentication. And this is multi-factor authentication is something where, you have a, username, password, and then an additional set of security enabled to access your account. Now, I'm starting to tell everyone now because I've heard about this. We do have software already in our system and it's in our environment that's going to allow us to get to authenticator apps and other things like that. So in the future, you should see other capabilities from us that's more than just a text message. And then whenever you're transferring secure, information, PII, things like that, you really want to have a secure messaging system or use RJ Vault. Does anyone here use RJ Vault or use the Vault at all to transfer? I've heard of clients sending stuff through, and not you, right? And if you've done this, I don't know about that. So, but I've heard of clients sending a bunch of documents through FedEx or someone putting on a thumb drive. And in one of those cases, the FedEx package got lost, right? And now we're trying to figure out, well, is there a breach of data somewhere? Did someone just open it up? Did it get lost in a conveyor belt? Whether it's with Raymond James or anyone else, if you're going to transmit PII to someone, you really want to ask them, how can I securely get this to you, and what resource do you have for that? If they say, no, no, just hurry up and get it to me, it'll be fine. Like I would really tell them, no, you want to protect your data. Our cyber threat center or our command center is pretty amazing. That those back screen of televisions really wrap around a good portion of one of our towers in St. Pete. You see like little tiny graphs in the background or whatnot. Those are all monitoring services. So it's monitoring client access, advisor access, just all these things that you use RJ Vault. And there, if something goes below the level, they get rid of it. Now, someone did ask me, why don't we have a lot of people working there? Maybe just a bad photo opportunity. That place is usually packed, people coming and going. Sometimes we're in a remote environment too. And this, we're not just here, right? So our cyber threat center as a whole, or what most people will call a SOC in other locations, a security operations center, we really spread out across 3 different areas. So Vancouver, Canada, St. Petersburg, Florida, and London, England. They're there 24/7, probably the smartest group of people I've ever met. Some people are so smart I just feel like I can't even talk to them, like just with their response, like I have an overload. And what you see there on the map is kind of a typical, for those who may have been in our home office before, who have actually had a cyber tour, and that is a thing. We usually like to show this map that shows us how many attacks we had within the last 24 hours. And what's really great about it is that we've already identified all these attacks. We've already, kind of put defensive measures against them and we're stopping them. So, just like anyone else in the financial sector, we are highly targeted, but we're also highly prepared to deal with these threats. All right, that's for some fun stuff. So now we're going to get into the current environment. Some of these articles are a little old, but some of them kind of make sense. The Colonial Pipeline was a huge thing. They're looking at disrupting major infrastructure in the U.S. And these are still concerns that we have to this day, right? There's a lot of intelligence out there saying, nation state actors from countries like China, things like that, are actually looking at our national grids or just, how they can maybe cause disruption. Pretty scary stuff. Did anyone hear about the MGM attacks last year? Yeah, pretty big news there. What's really amazing about that attack is that the attackers, they're kind of using new techniques that are, kind of maybe just not traditional, right? So if I were to think of like, 100 years ago, 2 gentlemen having a disagreement, maybe one slaps the other with a glove, right? What's going to happen? They're going to have a duel, right? Like there's going to be a showdown or something. Well, in this case, they met up and then they said, okay, 10 paces and we're going to turn around. And the bad guys took 3 and they turn around, right? So kind of unconventional ways that are happening to them, and what they're doing. The one thing I want to talk about really here, just a quick one, is there's a headline there that says researchers find dozens of fake Easy Pass toll websites after FBI warning. So that may not have affected you all in this area. I think it was, I heard about it in Tennessee. I actually had a family member who received it. She hadn't been driving in like 10 years, so much older. Pennsylvania, things like that. So these people were getting phishing emails saying, hey, your Easy Pass is over by $3.11 or $7.23, whatever. How many people just pay that, right? It's like $3, no big deal, like whatever. Well, that was the actual scam, right? So it was a fraudulent, it was a phishing email. It wasn't real. They were posing as like the toll system, something within the state government, things like that, just to get victims. So pretty clever on their end, is that they're not really trying to put the hook at something like $40,000 or $1 million, or whatever the case is, right? just a simple amount of money, $3 or $7 some change, and then they get you. How do they get you is really through social engineering. So I kind of want to talk about this in a few different ways. Does anyone like magic? Anyone magic? You didn't know I was going to do magic today, so I'm pretty fascinated with maybe just the signs that other people could give. Like if you ask them a question, they might blink in a certain way, or they might give you some type of sign as far as the truth. So do you mind? Can I ask you, ma'am, a few questions? So have we ever met before? A lot of people met me, right? I held the door open for as many people as I could, but but you never met me before. We haven't talked. Okay, a number 1 through 10. Can you tell me number 1 through 10? Okay, 7. I'm gonna name some vehicles, but so don't say anything to me. Lexus, Acura, Honda, BMW, Mercedes. Okay, I believe you drive a blue Mercedes. Is that true? Okay, that's pretty good. But that could be a fluke, right? I mean, maybe it's not true. You know, Let me just find someone else random there. Gentleman with the pen writing in the blue jacket. Okay, do you mind? Can I ask you a few questions? Okay. I'm going to name a few car brands: Acura, Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, Lexus. You know? Oh, no, no, don't tell me anything. Oh, you didn't say anything? Okay, okay. White, beige, yellow. Oh, beige interior? Did I just see that from you? Okay. I think white SUV, mini SUV, Mercedes. Yeah, is white, cream, or like very, huh? So, thank you both. I hope I didn't, let you know anything too much. This is really, there's nothing magical about me. So I'll just be completely real. I'm a complete fraud right now. So what I did was I watched you pull up, and I just said, blue Mercedes, blue Mercedes, blue Mercedes, like a million times, white Mercedes, white Mercedes, white Mercedes. And I was hoping you'd be nice enough to let me ask you a question. Well, these are the same things that cyber criminals could do to us. We could be somewhere and they could pretext a situation and say, hey, I'm with this organization or I'm with that, or a situation has happened. And you kind of believe me. And now I have an unfair advantage because I'm up here, I'm speaking, right? Like, you wouldn't normally probably tell me anything if I came up to you on the street. But that's just how important it is to kind of, wonder, well, what is someone asking me? What is their intention? And is it to benefit me or is it to benefit them? And if it's to benefit me, is it too good to be true? Or is it, just something else? And so that kind of gets into that little pretexting block on there. Phishing comes in many ways: phishing emails, SMS text, even voice phishing. And I'm spending too much time on this slide, but they're looking for emotion. So whenever you come across an email, a physical letter in the mail, things like that, is it making you feel a certain way? Is it making you feel some type of response? Why is it? In many cases, I would always say, slow down. Slow down. Does everyone have a trusted, like a confidant? Anyone that they could go to for advice that'll kind of, they won't sugarcoat anything? Anyone here? Like few, yeah. I would always say, find that person. If you don't have that person, find that person. You want someone who won't sugarcoat anything from you. They'll tell you the truth. They'll look at things from a different perspective. Because if you were to come up to someone and say, "Hey, I really got this great email. I'm gonna, I mean, it doesn't apply to you all. I'm gonna win a car, or whatever the case may be, or I found this great relationship. This guy really likes me. He's, gonna be here from California in a few weeks. Somehow he found me. Whatever, or gal." Go to that trusted confidant and ask them, what do you think about the situation? And then many times they could look at it from a different perspective and let you know, like, hey, this might not sound right, or just make sure that you're doing something that you shouldn't be, right? So, I mean, not doing something that you should be. How many people get phone calls? Like I get like a million phone calls, right? Does anyone ever answer their phone when if it's an unknown number? I know I don't. There used to be a time in my life when I was a little kid when phones would hang on walls. Not so much these days, right? That I would always run to the phone to pick it up. Now, when I see an unknown number on my phone, even if it's the same area code as me, I don't answer it. And a lot of times, if you don't answer it, and they won't leave a voice message. So a lot of attacks are happening where someone's spoofing a phone number. So maybe they're spoofing your bank's fraud department. Maybe they're spoofing my number that you have inside your phone. And then of course they're impersonating that company, right? So a lot of common things could be, hey, I'm from your bank's fraud department. We noticed some malicious activity or some suspicious activity. Is this Chuck Sapp? I'm Chuck Sapp, right? Yes, it is. Okay, well, in order to verify that I am speaking to you, I need some information from you first. What's your account number? All these things, right? They're asking these verification questions that you might not think are anything, but they may not be who they are. So, what would you do if you received a phone call on your phone and it had your bank's fraud department listed as a caller ID? Anyone? Call them back? Exactly. So the best thing to do whenever you receive unsolicited communication, and this could be an email, phone call, things like that, is you're going to go to Google or Bing or whatever your search engine is, and you're going to look up that organization's phone number through public means or through verified means, and you're going to contact them back. So remember, you control the speed, you control the conversation. There's no one should be rushing you into a decision because look, a lot of successful people are in this room, right? Except for me, I'm the only unsuccessful person here. But when something comes across your desk or when you're faced with an issue, you probably solve it right away, right? You start thinking, how can I solve this issue and just get rid of it? Well, threat actors or cyber criminals are betting on this because they want you to have some issue come across your desk and they want you to act on it right away, and you're kind of falling into the trap, right? So you control the flow of the conversation, you verify who you're speaking with, and I would say that this is an important thing that if should you feel like if you get a call tomorrow, right, and you say, "Hey, this is Chuck. Remember me from last night?" You should say, "Yeah, I do remember you, but let me call you right back." Right? And maybe call up Carter Financial Management. And say, "Is Chuck around there? He's calling me from the phone or something." But don't ever hesitate to call someone back or to have someone call you back. Like if you call Carter Financial Management and you say, "Hey, I'm trying to do this," and it's kind of if something that you don't typically do, right? Maybe I want to go into a new position or whatever the case is. If they say, "Can I just call you right back just to verify you are who you are?" Don't be upset about that, right? Like just look at it like we're all kind of verifying something that seems a little different, but we're not really sure yet. It is the number one complaint by the FCC, phone calls. Does anyone have their number on a do not call list? I know I do, and I still get all those calls. Yes, some of us. So, they don't care, right? The threat actors don't care. $1,400 is the average amount of a typical scam. It's pretty low hanging fruit. Do you really think the FBI is going to call in all their resources to look up a $1,400 scam? No, but they may if they see a lot of it, right? So this is why it's always important to report these things. This may not apply to anyone here, but there is no prize unless you were on a cruise recently and things like that, and you actually sign up for a prize. That's the only time that you should expect one. You won't be arrested. Does anyone ever I mean, I think that there's been some cases where on Twitter, a sheriff's office has said, "Hey, come down, you won a prize," and of course the criminal goes down, or the person who had a warrant, and then they find out their prize is in jail, right? So but for us, we're not going to be arrested if we don't answer the phone. And remember, you never need to decide now. You control the conversation, you control the flow. If you don't feel good about it today, just sleep on it and wait till tomorrow. And again, what would you do? You would look up a number through a verified resource like Google or Bing or thing like that. You would also reach out to a trusted confidant, right, and say, "Hey, I have this situation, I have this email, I have this, whatever the case is. What do you think?" And then one of the most important things here is that scammers demand that you pay in certain ways, right? So the only person that expects a gift card payment from me are my kids, my nieces and nephews, right? Like they go crazy for gift cards. If I don't have one, then they get kind of upset or cash. A legitimate business isn't going to ask you to pay with a gift card, and they're also not going to ask you to have a whole pile of money in a shoebox on your porch and have someone come pick it up, right? So, like I mean, and these things happen, right? And it's kind of unfortunate. And I don't want to make fun of anyone if that happened to you. I don't mean anything bad by it because we have to think about how clever threat actors are and how they really make us believe that we're doing the thing that we're supposed to. And then unfortunately, later on we might find out it's a scam. Toad attacks. Has anyone ever heard of a toad attack? Kind of a funny name, right? So it's kind of quite clever. So it can happen to you through an email, or it could happen through a physical letter in the mail. And all it is something happened. Here's a phone number if you have any questions, and that's it. So what you're doing is you receive that email or that physical letter in the mail. You call the number provided. The fraudster's answering, and then now you're kind of playing into their web, right? So now it's really up to you to decide, is this legitimate or what's the situation? Remember Who Loves Magic, right? Like, would you really believe me if I gave this big story? This is a great example. Geek Squad. Microsoft is another example. They're looking for well-branded names that are recognized, and they're not afraid to use them. I think if you go to Geek Squad's website, they're going to say, "Hey, watch out for these scams, things like that. We're aware of this. Geek Squad would never contact you like this or whatever." But the clever thing here is you have a $417 charge, so you think, but you don't see anything in your bank account. So you call the number, you say, "Hey, what's going on here? I didn't sign up for this." You're thinking, that you're speaking to someone from Geek Squad. And they may even be extremely professional on the phone, like, "Hey, how you doing today?" And maybe they have your number and name. Like maybe you call up and they say, "Hey, Mr. Anderson, how are you doing today?" Because they've done this research, right? They were in the parking lot watching what you came up in. They say, "Are you sure you weren't charged?" You check your bank account, you weren't charged. And they say, "Great. Well, we could stop this, but I need to uninstall that software off your computer. And unfortunately, it only takes an administrator who could do it. So I want you to go to this website and type in these numbers and allow me access to your computer," right? So you do it because you don't want to get charged $417. And what you don't realize is that maybe behind the scenes, you were still logged into your bank account and now they're in your bank account kind of moving money off to the side and you have no idea that they're on that screen because they could be telling you just a minute, I need to get someone access, I'm having a problem with the program, things like that, right? So what do we there's a few rules here I keep repeating. So who controls the flow of the conversation? We do, right? You do. Yeah. You control the flow, you control the timing. Well, how does this make you feel? I receive a charge I wasn't supposed to. Okay, maybe I could afford $417. It's no big deal. But it is making me feel something. So maybe I'm going to slow down a little bit. And I'm never going to give anyone access to my computer. So now that doesn't mean if you have a contract with HP or something to do things like that, that you wouldn't give them access. I mean, obviously it's legitimate service if you've signed up for it, but you're just not going to call someone and have them say, "I need you to go to this website for me," and give them access. Again, we're connected at the hip by our phones. I want to talk about two quick things real fast: service cancellation and product delivery. This is a real text I received last Christmas. We are a global firm, so I thought maybe the people in the UK, the folks in London, were actually sending me cassette tapes because I asked them, "Hey, you got any cool Beatles cassette tapes you could send me?" I love cassette tapes for some reason. I knew that this was fake because I see the website there. The website at the bottom says, or in the middle says giantcore.com. This isn't the post office, but I wanted it to be real, right? And I'm still asking my wife, "Are we receiving anything for the kids, supposedly from overseas?" And she's like, "No." So of course I reported it as and blocked it. There is a 7726 number you could forward it to spam. And I thought to myself, well, how would I know if this was truly the post office? So I went to their site, and these are something you should do with all organizations you do business with, or have any interest with. And it says UPS will not send customers a text message or text or email without a customer first requesting service with a tracking number. So there's no way the post office would ever reach out to you first, unsolicited, right? It's always going to come from you. And I love that they have in bold there, it will not contain a link and do not click on the link. So they're trying to tell you if you did receive a text message for us, you would have to initiate it, but then it wouldn't contain a link for you to click on. So do this with your bank, do this with us, do this with anyone, and just know how will an organization contact you. A lot of times when there's scams happening, this is how they get by someone not knowing, "Oh, I didn't know you wouldn't contact me from some number in the Bahamas. I just thought it was legitimate because the caller ID said Chuck's Bank," right? So voice cloning. And is anyone concerned about voice cloning in here? Does anyone think it's cool in any way? I think it's neat, right? Like I lost my father a long time ago. I would love to hear his voice and maybe have him say, "Hey, Chuck, good presentation today in Dallas, and you held the door open for a lot of people, and I'm really proud of you." So that's a great thing. But the scary thing is that voices can be cloned, right? And so we truly don't know who we're speaking with in some cases. But has this type of deception just started now with voice cloning, or has it been around longer? Any guess on how long it's been? Anyone, that I remember that there was like a biblical story about a brother who was posing as another brother in front of their father who was blind. I mean, these things have always been happening. They're just happening in new ways. And so I want to really focus on the bottom part there as far as verification. Now, AI or artificial intelligence, and I know I'm kind of really focused on voice cloning, artificial intelligence is amazing in the cybersecurity community. It's kind of scary because bad actors are doing things maybe quicker than they can, like the little kid in his mom's basement might be a super programmer now. But also, a lot of security solutions are doing a lot more with artificial intelligence than they've ever done before, and it's really great in some cases. But prevention, under the verification, I want you to have verification protocols, and I'll give you an example from my family. I told my mom, and my dad actually kind of foresaw this years ago. Now that I'm thinking about it, my dad would always tell me, "If you go to jail, son, you better buckle up because I'm not bailing you out," right? So he like foresaw voice cloning a long time ago when I was just a little kid in the 80s. But I told my mom, I would never contact you if I needed bail, right? I'm gonna just go to jail and try to figure it out from there. I'm never gonna put you in a situation, to my mom, where she has to, there's all these emotions, right? And again, she's someone who wants to, complete things as soon as they come across her desk. But I'm never gonna put her in a situation where she needs to immediately do something that's just kind of not in the norm. Now, that doesn't mean that an emergency doesn't arise, but when an emergency arises, can anyone guess what we do for those? I thought I heard someone say like a passphrase. Yeah. So we have like a special passphrase that we have for our family. I don't know if anyone knows like any kids like 12 years or younger, and maybe some kids are anomalies, but my kids don't like to talk on the phone. So my mom, that's an easy one for my mom. She's never gonna get that phone call with grandma. But that's also a good point. Does anyone go by anything other than grandma in here? You don't have to tell me, just raise your hand. Like, does anyone go by a different name? Okay. How about the gentleman in here? Does anyone go by a different name other than grandpa? Okay. So that's an easy one. If someone contacts you and they say, "Hey, grandpa," you're already gonna know it's fake, right? Because you're like, that's not what we say in my family. But have a verification. Have those kind of like the rules of the road with your children, with your loved ones, your friends, family, maybe even Carter Financial Management. Just say, "Hey, look, I love moving money around all the time. It's just what I do. I love risk. But maybe if I start moving, whatever, 200,000 or more, I want to use a passphrase with you. I want to use a special phrase with you so that you know it's me, right? So other than, answering questions, and all this other stuff, and of course they know your voice, that's what you do. Have a verification protocol when it comes to AI. And a lot of times, again, what happens in these situations? Like you might be feeling some emotion, some type of threat. So what would you do? Slow down and control the conversation, right? So my mom gets this phone call, "Hey, I'm in jail, mom, blah, blah, blah," whatever the case is. She knows I've already told her I would never do that. I would just go to jail and just maybe write her a letter from the jail, right? Maybe she'll get it in a couple weeks. Um, but should this be legitimate and she still wants to be sure, she's just going to call me back on her phone. And then if I answer, I could say, "No, mom, I'm fine, right? There's nothing wrong here." Has anyone been to this website? Have I been pwned? Have you heard of it? This is an amazing website. Go ahead and take a picture if you have pictures, or I can actually share the link afterwards, so you don't have to feel the need to, put all your pen around us. This is a great website that you could enter in your actual email or phone number and find out if you've been part of a data breach. Now, this is my data breach. I've been breached in a advanced auto parts one, and it was really weird because around the time that it was happened, I was receiving emails from them, but I did try to fix my AC in my minivan. So I did go buy something from them. And I just thought I hadn't been there in a while, so they started sending me stuff. But if you look at the bottom there, at the very bottom, it says compromised data, email address, names, phone number, and physical address. So do you think that I may not be able to believe someone if they say, "Hey, are you Chuck Sapp?" And I'm going to tell you my real address. I hope no one's recording. Do you live at 6013 Williamsburg Way in Tampa, Florida? Yeah, yeah, sure. Is your email address Mr.Charleston? So all these things. Of course, I'm going to believe them because they have all this information on me. Or did they get it from the Advanced Auto Parts data breach, right? So this is just a great tool. When we say look at your accounts, monitor your accounts, monitor your bank statements, monitor all these other things. This is just another tool to figure out, well, have I been part of a data breach? Um, Kind of the same thing. I might be going over time. I'm so sorry, Tyler. Find out what information was breached in a data breach. If you were contacted, how many people? And look, I don't want you to raise your hand. In the past, I have used the same password across multiple accounts. Why? Because it's so easy, right? Like, why can't I just remember one password for multiple accounts? And I'm really telling you the truth. I'm not lying here. So I'd be kind of, now this is not like real magician stuff. I think it's just human stuff. We love simplicity. We love something easy. that maybe some of us have used the same password across other accounts, or maybe some small variation of the same password that we use all because it's just so easy to remember, right? So if I knew that I had a data breach for AT&T, and no offense to anyone, from who uses AT&T, and if I use that same password at Roku or at my bank or at Raymond James, I'm probably going to want to change all those passwords now, right? So that just kind of shows you how important it is to have a unique password across different accounts. Enable multi-factor authentication. There was a Roku headline in the beginning. They didn't have MFA or multi-factor authentication. And so people took their passwords from one data breach and went to Roku and said, "Hey, I wonder if Chuck uses the same password there as he does on Gardening Weekly or whatever." He did, and guess what? Chuck also used his credit card with Roku and saved it, and so now they had access to not only to my password but my account and my credit card. So yeah, so monitor your accounts. It's always best to freeze your credit. To freeze and unfreeze is really a fast process these days, unless you're physically writing them a letter, then you'll have a slighter delay, right? But if you're doing it all electronically, it's going to be a lot better for you. And try to remove your personal information. And what does that mean? Now I'm not telling you that Raymond James tells me to go tell you all these things, but there are services, and one of them is called Delete Me. There's a service that you could have people delete your public data. You could also do it yourself. A lot of people say, well, why would you give a company your data just to delete your data, right? Kind of doesn't make any sense. But really look at the information that's out there for you, and try to remove that as much as you can. Because if you remove that data, bad Chuck, right, the bad cyber criminal Chuck, he can't find anything on you and know that what you drive or where you live and things like that. Key recommendations. There's so many here. I really just want to touch on three things. I want to touch on consistently updating your software. So maybe you go to your computer, you type in the little magnifying glass updates, check for updates, and you want to update that. Maybe it's your phone. If your phone says, hey, there's a new version update for you, go ahead and do that. It's always important to do updates because these are vulnerabilities that cyber criminals know. Hey, there's some new backdoor in, or there's some backdoor that's not closed, and I'm going to use that to hack Chuck. Treat every email that's unexpected with caution. And remember, we control. I didn't have a phrase for that. I was hoping someone would yell something, and I was just going to agree with you. We control the flow of our conversation, right? So we really control just anything in regards to an email or voice call or things like that that come to us. And on the very bottom right, use a strong and unique password. Use a password manager. I can't tell you to use one password manager or the other. There might be certain risks with one that others don't have. There are also different pay models. The one I use has been hacked like 7 times, and I keep using the same one. I don't know why I keep going back to it. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship. And it's rough because I had to redo all my passwords for like 3 days, and it was, if you've ever redone a password, it's frustrating one, right? Imagine like, more than 100. What do I do though in that case? Because I'm like, never again will I ever be hacked. I do something with my passwords where maybe in my password app, my password for Carter Financial Management is 28 characters, whatever. Well, then I go back like 10 characters, and I might type in the word cheese just in the middle, and I just know I'm always going to go back 10 characters and type in some random word that's always, it's always the same. So this means that the password manager doesn't really have the true password that I'm putting in. And it's always unique, right? But there's different ways. But if look up password managers if you don't have one. If you Google comparisons, there's great comparisons out there. You can see what's best for you. And again, and I'm so sorry for going over time, your security is our top priority. Should anything truly happen to your accounts here at Raymond James, without through no fault of your own, we will reimburse you and make you whole. I will be around. Please feel free to ask me any questions or beat me up in the corner. Thank you all for your time today.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, I guess I could have used that in my hand. Thank you so much, Chuck, for that. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Lori Peters to introduce our next speaker.
Hello, it is our pleasure to introduce Mr. John Legowski, Chartered Financial Analyst with Eagle Asset Management based in St. Petersburg, Florida.